looks. Oh, I guess there's attendees there.
There are attendees,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this Community Preservation Act Committee meeting of January 15th, 2026 to order. Um, we are holding this via Zoom and welcome everyone who's joining us in the audience. And um, I'd like to welcome our newest committee member, Mark Barrett. Before I do that, I'm confirming, but I know already based on Tim's question that he is, as he said he would, taking minutes for today's meeting. Thank you, Tim.
I confirm that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, Mark, we're so glad you're here. I hope, Mark is a member of the Amherst Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, and he's filling the vacancy created by Dr. Dave Williams, who stepped down from CPA. And I just want to take 2 seconds to thank Dr. Williams for his many years of service on the CPA. This is my 6th year, and he was on it before I started. Um, and his commitment to the housing authority work that he had done for many, many years, and among other things for our community. So I just want to say that how grateful we are for his devoted service to the community and specifically to the CPA. Mark was voted and approved by the town council in December, and I think was sworn in this week or last week as a member of the CPA. I think we've lost him though, so I don't see him. Maybe he was having trouble connecting. Do you see him in the audience at all, Lee? I mean, I can look too.
I see him as an attendee. I wonder, I don't, hmm.
Well, we can bring him in. Try it again.
Yeah, I tried it again.
Okay. Okay, great. I think we don't know if Mark, we'd love for you. We're going to
Unmute.
take a roll. Oh, great. We hear
I
you.
think I just
Thank
got it.
you.
I'm so sorry. My computer froze as soon as you started talking. So I'm on my phone, so I'm going to try to get on the computer also. But thank you
Oh,
very much for all your help. I'm trying to catch
oh,
up as best I can.
yes. No, we're grateful you're here. We appreciate you. We know it's unusual to be added at this stage of the process, but we're just grateful that you're doing this volunteer work with the Housing Authority and with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I didn't know if you just could share a little bit about yourself as way of introduction. Then we'll do a roll call, we'll roll call around. People can introduce themselves so you get
You want
connected
you
with
want
all
me
of
to do it
us.
now, Katie?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I'm Mark Barrett. I've been on the Housing Authority both in Belchertown and Amherst. Let's see. I'm also was part of the COA. I run the Rainbow Coffee Hour in Amherst for 2.5 years. I get involved in a lot of things. So I was also part of, let's see, what is it called? I want to say one of the agencies for, and I want to say Highland Valley. So I'm very, very familiar with what you guys do, how you get your money, where it comes from, and how you guys vote on it. So I did all my homework on that part. The only thing is
Great.
I just got to figure out who put in applications and catch up on that part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just for everyone else to know that I think Mark, you were sworn in last week or this week.
Yeah, I think it was Monday. It went down Monday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot for Mark to have to sort of get caught up on all of, since we have 16 proposals, we have that's a big year for us, Mark, and it's hard for all of us to be caught up on all the details. So, you know, we expect you, feel free to ask questions or, do what you
Excuse
need
me.
to do to participate, but we're happy to have you.
Well, thank you very much. I got to figure out how to mute myself. I don't know how
Yeah,
to do it on the phone.
you did it. Great. Well, as we do, if we could just go around and make sure that we can hear each other and just say you're here. And I will start with Jonas.
Hi, I'm Jonas Cox. I'm on the rec committee and first year on CPAC.
Great. Tim.
Here, present.
Great. And Tim, you've been on the CPA for 6 years
5,
too, right? Yeah, 5, 6 years.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. We always start things together.
Yes, I know. And I'm leaving you again. What can I tell you?
Oh gosh. Angus.
Present, I'm Angus MacLeod. I'm on the planning board, and this is my first year on the CPA.
Great. Thank you. Jason.
Here, I'm Jason Dorney. I am on the Conservation Commission, and this is my second year on CPA.
Great. Thanks. Bob.
Bob Saul, this is my third year on CPAC, and Mark, it's nice to meet you.
Thanks, Bob. Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Fordham. I'm chair of the Historical Commission, and I've lost track of how long I've been on CPA.
That's okay. We keep track for you. Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen Kiter, and this is my first year on the CPA.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. So I think that those are all committee members are present and accounted for. We can hear each other. Leah Carver, you've met through email, Mark, and Sean Mangano and Dave Zomek will be joining us for various portions of the meeting coming up. You've probably run into those two before as well. So our first order, are there any other announcements? This was our announcements section. Any other announcements? Aside from the fact that we had a bit of a tiny, tiny wrinkle with updating the Zoom link, hopefully everyone, it looks like we have got a great crowd in attendance, 17 people, and all of us, I assume that wrinkle is totally smoothed out now. So thanks everyone for your patience. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes, which Jonas, I think you provided. I think that was most recently. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Yes. Those were I'm just sorry, I don't have in front of me, but those were the minutes from December 11th. Oh,
Can check.
we've lost. Oh, there's Leah. Oh, Ellen, you have a question. Just saw your hand. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm not at home and I'm having major connectivity issues. So everybody keeps dropping out, and I apologize. I'm going to try to move around to a better spot.
Okay. Okay. You mean you can't hear us well, or?
Right, correct. It keeps dropping. So,
Okay. All right.
Ellen, it might be helpful if you turn your video off.
okay.
You can
Sorry. Leah,
also join by audio only, and yeah, just keep your screen up. That might help too.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry. I'm at my parents' and the Wi-Fi is not good here.
Yeah. Got it. We got that. Sorry. Leah, are we
I
approving the
think
December
maybe
11th?
I think it's the 12-18 minutes.
Yeah.
18th.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, December 18th.
Yeah, 12-18. So I'd like a motion to approve the minutes, or are there any comments or corrections, Angus?
No, I was going to move.
Oh,
And
First-
I'll second.
Okay.
Jonas, those were great minutes.
Yeah, and hearing no comments, additions, corrections, I will call for a vote with the roll call vote as we do, starting with Angus.
Yay.
Jason,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Jonas,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye. Aye.
and Mark. We've got you to, I can see your profile and but I don't have any audio on either one, so I can't tell if you're voting or abstaining or. Mark, do you have audio? Okay, that's a thumbs up signal because there's no audio. Okay. All right, well, those minutes were approved unanimously. Thank you very much, Jonas, and thanks to everyone for reading them, reviewing them. Great. Okay, moving into the next portion of our agenda, which is public comment. I'd like to ask the attendees, the folks who are with us tonight by Zoom, if they, since there's now 16 of you, if you could show by raising your hand in Zoom if you're interested in making a comment this evening, just so we could see how much time this portion will take.
I'm sorry, Katie, we're talking about making a comment on the projects before us, like short comment. Is that what we're talking about? Sorry. Got
It's what we
distracted
do. It's okay. Yeah, public comment at the beginning of every meeting.
Okay.
You know, we usually have a couple comments from people who are in the audience, and I see that there's a lot of people. So I just, you know, sometimes people are here just to watch live as opposed to the recording, so hard to know.
My apologies.
Looks like we have.
I was distracted and I thought you were talking about us, not the public. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, no. Yeah. So far I have 3 attendees who are planning to and wish to make a comment. Doesn't mean you can't change your mind, of course, but just so we have a sense of whether or not time limits would be helpful so that everyone gets a chance to be heard. Any others besides those who've raised their hand? Okay, well, I think it would be great to start. You can well, actually, but we'll just go in the order in which we have them here, and you can make your comment. I think it would be good, just state your name and where you live, and you know, we'll try to keep it to 3 minutes-ish, maybe 3-4 minutes for sure. We have a little bit of time if we want to give about 15 minutes to this, and others aren't interested in speaking, but just participating. How does that sound to the committee?
Good.
Reasonable? Okay. Great. Okay, so it looks
I
like you
brought
brought
in, I brought our first one in, Ken.
Okay, so Kent Berber, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to stay off video because I had a little face surgery this morning. You don't want to know what I look like.
Okay.
Thank you for the chance to come. Kent Ferber, 481 Station Road in Amherst. And I did submit some written comments, but I just wanted a minute or two to amplify one aspect of those that has to do with the suggestion that has been made that the Jones Library CPA application can't be granted because the town has bond authorized the entire cost of the project, and the CPA grant would therefore replace or substitute or supplant part of that. And this is just totally erroneous. It's a misreading of the facts and the CPA supplanting law. The CPA supplanting law comes from section 6 of chapter 44B, the Mass General Laws, which was part of the Community Preservation Act, which says the community presentation fund shall not replace existing operating funds, only augment them. The clear purpose of this provision is to prevent towns from using CPA surcharge funds to fund their general revenue obligations. And a CPA grant in this case would clearly not do that. So this prohibition wouldn't apply. In fact, the borrowing authorization was not for the entire amount of the project. If you read the terms of it, it had to be reduced by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners grant and a specified amount to be provided by the Jones Library trustees. And a CPA grant would help the latter, but it would not supplant any part of the town's contribution, the eventual amount bounded. Nobody ever thought that the town would pay the entire cost of the project. Its obligation was to be funded, was to be capped at 15.8 million, and a CPA grant would not reduce that. As an aside, in fact, some have suggested that the CPA grant be credited toward that town part of the obligation, but that would clearly be an obvious example of such prohibited supplanting or substitution. If the CPA committee wants to be absolutely sure that its funds do not replace general revenue funds, it could require that its grant only be paid at the completion of the construction when the town's borrowing is clearly defined at the $15.8 million level. Such a grant then would only reduce the library trustee's share of the cost of the project. The Bureau of Municipal Finance guideline that has been quoted is totally not applicable to this situation. It's aimed at the ordinary case where a borrower attempts to reduce the liability it has already engaged to fund a project. It does not in any way contemplate this project's unusual guarantee arrangement. That is, the original borrowing authorization was simply a guarantee to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners that the project would go forward if the MBLC made its grant. The only way a CPA grant might supplant funds from the town is if the trustees default on their obligation, and then the CPA funds were used to defray the town's obligation to pay more than the $15.8 million. Again, if the CPA committee wanted to be absolutely sure that it didn't serve that purpose, it could condition its grant on that not happening. So in conclusion, I would just urge that it's pretty clear that the CPA law prohibiting replacing or substituting CPA funds for general obligation borrowing just doesn't apply to this situation. Thank you for the hard work you're doing with all these applications.
Thank you, Kent. Appreciate your public comments. All right, so Jane Lithgow is the next. Welcome, Jane. If you could just let us know where you live and you can get started. And Jane, you're on mute. If you've already started, we can't hear you.
Sorry. This is David Lithgow. I'm speaking for Jane. I'm using her
Got
computer.
it. Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
We moved here in 1977. Oh, just a second. I want to start my timer. We moved here in 1977 to raise our family. And over the years, while I didn't grow up in Amherst, Amherst is now my home, quote unquote, town. I heard a very interesting definition of the term home on a podcast recently, defining home, the meaning of home as a place where one feels connected, protected, and respected. Rather catchy. Well, every home needs a living room. And if Amherst is my metaphorical home, the Jones Library is the metaphorical living room. I can't think of any other location in Amherst where everyone is welcome and feels connected, not only to the community, but connected to friends and family, and protected and respected. And I can't think of any location in town that preserves that feeling of home, as does the Jones Library. And so I feel passionately that the Jones Library renovation and expansion project, preserving its historical significance, be supported by the CPA. And I'd just like to point out that, we don't have a direct democracy in this town. We have a representative democracy. We no longer have town meeting, we have town council. And we have extraordinary town council members who have deployed, expertise to closely examine evidence, using that expertise to deliberate the difficult questions that a complex society like our town presents. And that representative democracy has worked. And so I urge you to take that into consideration when you consider the importance of the library to this town and its historical significance and its preservation. And I hope I stayed under 3 minutes.
You definitely did, and thank you so much, David, for your taking the time to share your public comment with us. Much appreciated. I think Maria's next. Oh, there she's coming in. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Maria Kapicki, South Amherst. I hope that members of the committee have read the document I sent you and have looked into the concerns I raised. I speak today in opposition to the request for any CPA funds for the Jones Library building project. My objection is based on the fact that this request violates rules against the use of CPA funds for this project. Namely, 1, the prohibition of the use of CPA funds for projects that are not in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. This project was repeatedly denied historic tax credits for the same reason. CPA rules instruct that, quote, CPA grant awards for rehabilitation work on historic resources should clearly stipulate use of these standards as a requirement of receiving the grant. It does not meet that. Number 2, the prohibition against supplanting, which holds that, quote, once a community authorizes a borrowing with another financing source for debt service, it cannot amend or change the financing source to a community preservation fund financing source. I'm sure that Mr. Farber is not trying to represent himself as a legal opinion, and if there is any concern about this, you should talk to the CPA on a higher level and to legal sources. This is not okay to use CPA money for this. And CPA money that had already been granted, as I mentioned in the document I sent you, has already been borrowed in an inappropriate way for work on special collections, which clearly has not happened yet. The Amherst Historic Commission appropriately noted that the funding for the items named in the CPA request are already part of the $46.1 million total project budget, the borrowing for which has already been authorized by Town Council. The Jones Library Building Committee has explicitly stated that any additional costs for treatment of the windows and woodwork stipulated by the Section 106 process will be covered by the project contingency funds, which are included in the $46.1 million authorization. To be crystal clear, the decision before you is not about whether you or others are fans of the library building project. It is also not about whether the project can or should move forward. The project is happening as we speak and will be completed regardless of your actions today. The pertinent question for you is whether it is appropriate or even permitted to commit precious Amherst CPA funds to it. The evidence clearly indicates that it is not. You have many other excellent and worthy projects that actually need CPA funds to happen at all. I urge you to recommend spending the $2.5 million fiscal year 2027 CPA budget on those instead of the Jones Library project. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate your public comments and thank you so much. Have a great evening. I'm looking, Leah, I don't see any other hands raised for public comment. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment this evening? Because once we close that part of the agenda, we will be moving into deliberations, and that will be the end of public comments for this process.
I don't think I see anyone new.
Anybody else? The last call to.
Oh, we have one. Ready?
Yes. Yes, please, Gigi, welcome. And if you just
Thank you,
introduce yourself, where you live, that'd be great.
So Gigi Barnhill, I live at 54 Larkspur Drive in Amherst, and I'm president of the Amherst Historical Society. I just want to say that we did make an application to the Massachusetts Cultural Council Cultural Facilities Fund for half of the cost of our project. We won't know the results of that for some time, of course, but I did want you to know that we had taken your advice and have moved forward.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for that update. I appreciate it. And
thanks for all.
Wish you the best with that. I hope that comes through.
Oh, we do too.
Thank you. Okay. Well, this ends the public comment section of our meetings and our process this season. I just want to thank the public for all of their, for showing up to these meetings, for listening, for looking at the recordings and listening to those, and for participating in public comment in the public hearing. And I just want to say that for the first time in my 6 years to receive, I think I added up close to 40 pages of emails in favor of and opposed to different projects. So that is an impressive amount of public participation. So thank you to the public for being with us. So we'll end the public comment portion, and now we'll be entering into the deliberation stage.
Excuse me, Katie, the financial update?
Yeah, so I've sort of, the financial update to me is not really part of it's starting our deliberations. It's getting us information. So we're going to go right in. We are going to go right into that, Tim. And I just want to say that we're going to start with start our deliberations with the financial update, a chance for Sean to walk us through the debt service schedule, for us to ask questions, for us to understand, what money is available and implications going forward should we make decisions about additional debt. And then I will describe sort of my proposed process for getting us rolling into discussion of the proposals. So if that's okay with the committee, we'll start with Sean, so we have as much of that information first. Does that all sound okay?
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, Sean, you are up.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sounds good. All right. I apologize if you hear any unicorn sounds in the background. I've got a very delicate balance with my 4-year-old watching a movie, and it's like,
Unicorns are great. Let's bring in more unicorns.
If it becomes a distraction, let me know. And Leah, so I'm going to share my screen in a second. Leah, if you could look for hands, I think the best thing to do would be if you have questions as I'm presenting some of the information, just raise your hand and we'll kind of address them as we go. All right, let's see. All right, can you see the presentation on the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so the first thing we wanted to share with you is an update on your funding. So there's been some shifts in a positive direction, and I'll highlight what those are and why I went in that direction. So we start FY26 with 1.9 million. One adjustment we made is we've increased our estimates of the local surcharge, looking at what we've collected in prior years. So we've increased that to 1.4 million for FY26, and then we increased it a little bit more for FY27. The local surcharge tends to grow a little bit every year, just like property taxes grow a little bit every year. It's a percentage. So that's why when we look back at history, that tends to grow a little bit. The state match, I think, was in there already, but we've updated the percentage. So ultimately it was a 22.8% match relative to the surcharge dollars that we collected. So the available balance for this current year that we're in, FY26, when you take the beginning balance, add in what we're estimating that we'll collect in surcharge and the state match, brings us to 3.7 million. Now we subtract from that the appropriations that were made for FY26. So this is another area where there was this was me not digging into this enough. When we presented this before, we included the number that the CPA committee recommended last time around, which included about $600,000 worth of debt. Ultimately, what the town council approved for debt when they voted the budget in June was only about $200,000, because as we spoke about, I think last time I was here, some of those projects weren't ready to happen. So if you go back and you look at this chart from last year, you'll see a bigger number for the recommendation from CPA than the 1.8 million. But ultimately, between the appropriations that the CPA committee recommended and the debt that actually got appropriated, the total was 1.8. So that actually put more money into your beginning balance for FY26 for the year we're looking at. So then you go down to the next half of this chart. So you start with 1.8 million, and you add the assessed local tax that we're estimating for this year, 1.4. State match, we're estimating about 320, and that gives us 3.6 available for this year. And then the only thing we subtract right now is the debt, the estimated debt for next year, based on the projects that have already been approved. So we'll look at that on the next screen. We feel pretty confident that the debt that we're projecting for next year is going to happen. We're getting ready to borrow for these projects now. And last year we thought that was going to happen and it didn't. This time around, I feel confident that this number is ultimately somewhere around this number. We won't know until the interest rates are set, but somewhere around this 524 is what the debt payment will be from CPA next year. So that leaves the CPA committee with 3.1 million available for other projects. So this slide just kind of talks about some of what I just mentioned, and you can see the projects at the bottom that make up that 524. For track and field, there were two separate CPA appropriations or debt authorizations for the track and field. When we go out to borrow, we're going to consolidate those, so you'll just see that as one appropriation for the combination of the two. And again, if you have any questions as we go through this, just raise your hand. And you also see in that chart at the bottom, we put what year of the debt payment. So for example, Belchertown Road, FY27 will be the 5th payment of 10 payments. So that was a 10-year borrowing term. But for many of these projects, you'll see that it's year 1 of 10. Jason?
Thanks, Sean. Does that mean then that Belchertown Road was $715,000?
Yeah, it was in that vicinity. Yeah, I would have to go back and look if we did. So we're going to talk about this on a couple of screens. You can structure your debt to be level principal or level payment, and depending on how that debt was structured, the principal payments may be descending over the term. So I have to go back and double check that. But it was Dave, you may remember exactly what that appropriation was, but it was somewhere in that range.
That's right, Sean. It was 700 something. I too am a little fuzzy on the number, but it was between 700,000 and 800,000.
Yep. Good. All right, keep going. So CPA committee can recommend projects be funded with debt. Funded projects will reduce the amount of CPA funds available in future years because those debt payments take priority over new projects. Ultimately, the length of the debt term and the composition of the debt, how we structure it, that's ultimately a treasurer decision. And we have a financial advisor that works for Unibank, has worked for the town for many years. So we work with them very closely on all of our debt issuances, and they help us come up with the most advantageous structure for the town. But there are some decisions that we make based on different operational needs, and we'll talk about what some of those are. Some of the factors that influence the costs are ultimately the length, go out for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You can't go out longer than the life of the asset, but you do have some flexibility to go out less if you want to pay off the debt faster. And as I mentioned, you can structure the pay down of the debt. You can do level principal, which I'll show you an example on a few slides. It'll lower the cost at the front end, but ultimately you'll pay higher interest. Or you could do, you could do level payment, which will do that, or you could do level principal, which will pay it off faster, but it'll be higher at the front end. And all the debt that we issue is competitive. So whenever we go for borrowing, we bundle all of our different financings that we have to do, and it goes out on a market, and banks essentially compete. And so we get to guarantee we get the best interest rate. So this is that example that I mentioned. It might be a little small, but essentially it's just giving you understanding of what I just mentioned, which is so level principals, the top table here. So this is if we were to do $1 million project at 4%, which is roughly what interest rates are right now, and we wanted to keep our principal payment level at $100,000 per year, our payment at the beginning would be a little bit higher, around $140,000, but it would descend over the life of the debt. And the net or the total cost, interest and principal over the life of that borrowing would be about $1.2 million. If we had a lot of projects and we were trying to figure out ways to get those initial years to be less expensive, we could do level payment, which essentially keeps a flat payment over the life of the debt, and it's some ways good for budgeting. But the downside of that is you actually end up paying more interest over the life of the borrowing. So that cost would be about $1.23 million. So in this example, not a huge difference in the cost, but those are some of the things we look at when we structure the debt. Jason?
Yeah, Sean, you just both these examples are 10 years, and it appears most of the things that we've seen are 10 years. You just mentioned that you can't, I forget exactly what you said, but your payment schedule can't be greater than.
You can't borrow for any longer than the life of the asset. So let's say the asset had a 10-year useful life. We couldn't go out and borrow for 15 years. Most things we borrow for has a longer useful life. We work with, we look at different sources to determine useful lives. So many things we fund are 20, 30 years. Yeah, Brendan, go watch the movie, please.
Any idea what the useful life of a slate roof is?
Well, that could be, upwards of 30 years. Now there are limitations. On the back end, you can't generally go over 30 years. I think there were some exceptions made recently for school projects that allow you to go a little bit longer for school projects, but generally you can't go longer than 30 years.
Okay.
I think was there another hand? Angus?
Yeah, my question was answered. I was going to ask the same question about the slate roof and the timing and the characteristics. I mean, and maybe just one general comment. The slate roof seems like a great example of an asset that could be bonded in the whole menu of all the things we have, and just general comment there.
Yep. Yeah, roof projects, I would say, are generally good candidates for borrowing. The useful lives are pretty well established. Angus?
Yeah, my question is just most of the debt that the town issues, because this would be folded into, you said, other, debt issuances that the town does. Are they usually for 10-year periods, or are they variable?
They're variable. So we have a ladder truck, for example, was $1.5 million. I think we're borrowing for 15 years for that one. Some are less than, we'll borrow for 5 years. There's two types of borrowings. There's bond anticipation notes, which is short-term debt, and then there's an actual bond, which is like a permanent, like almost like a mortgage. Some projects that are really, that are less expensive, we may just do a bond anticipation note and pay it off a little bit over 5 years, 5 or 6 years. So it really kind of depends on the project. But no, there's nothing set in stone about 10 years. But I think for CPA, that's just generally been where we've come in at.
And generally speaking, the longer we push out the repayment plan, the greater the interest we'd end up paying in total.
Yeah, exactly. You'll lower your payments a little bit, but you'll end up paying more in interest costs if you go out too far.
Thank you.
Just one, I'm going to interject myself before Dave, is just to note that, especially for new CPA members, fortunately for us, we have an awesome director of finance and finance committee that makes all of those decisions about length and all of that stuff. So it's really, we sort of are told that it's a 10-year or a 12-year or 15 or whatever. So we don't have to make those decisions, but we have to decide, do we want to take on debt that will affect future ability to fund new projects. So it's just helpful to get all of this background. I so appreciate you, Sean, and giving us a better understanding. But I just wanted to make sure, in case people were thinking we had to consider the different types of debt or the different ways to finance or the number of years or anything. Fortunately, we don't have to do that. So, Dave, why don't you step in?
Oh, sure. I didn't quite hear Jason's question about the slate roof. Was it a question of what is the expected life of that? I mean, I think.
Yeah. How long do those last?
I mean, it's one of the longest lasting roofs.
Yeah.
I think we can put on the structure. I think actually some of the slate roof may be original. So, I know slate roofs that have lasted 75 to 100 years. So.
Yeah, it's over 100 years. A lot of it is original.
Yeah.
It's what we heard. So.
Yeah,
But we can't
Sean
borrow that
answered.
long.
We will not borrow for that long.
Yeah, Sean answered that generally it's not longer than 30 years, which was
Yeah.
what I
Bad,
was
right?
essentially getting at when I
Yeah.
asked the question.
So we would bond for 10, but that clearly has a lifespan of many, many decades. Thanks.
Investment. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Jonas.
Yes. Would any of our recommendations from this committee end up with town council and then be bonded, and then the debt is serviced from the town rather than from CPA? Or maybe we shouldn't even bother with that possibility.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it's recommended by CPA and approved by the city council or the town council through CPA, then it would come out of CPA funds. The only way that would happen would be if this committee didn't recommend it and the town council wanted to do the project still, or if you did recommend it and the town council rejected it for some reason, and wanted to fund it a different way. But if you recommend it and they accept it, it's going to be funded through CPA.
Well, I also think the flip was, I think David mentioned that if we don't recommend it, that the town sometimes will come in and say, well, it's needed anyway, and we're going to bond it. And
yeah, potentially. Yeah. Well,
my question to you, Sean, is why would we recommend that something be bonded if it reduces our future capacity to fund projects? And I understand we're not playing chicken with town council to some degree, want to do what's right for the town, but it just seems with limited resources, we would want to preserve those resources. Can you help me get into a mind frame where we might suggest bonding?
yeah, I think it allows you to support larger projects. And one theory behind borrowing is you sort of spread the cost out among the generations that will benefit from that asset. So, for example, the track and field is going to benefit people for 10 to 15 years. If you were to say, we're not going to borrow for that, we're going to use our whole CPA allocation and not be able to fund any other projects this year, because that's essentially what it would do. It'd be great. You'd have the track and field and it'd be no debt associated with it, but you wouldn't be able to do any other projects. And you'd essentially be using all of this year's money to provide that asset for many years to come. So I think the general reason why you do it is to be able to take on some of these larger projects and spread out the cost when they are larger. We won't borrow for things that are under a few $100,000. It's really the projects that are larger that, and if you look at this year, there's some projects that if you were to not borrow for them, that would be the only project you could do this year with the money you have.
I'm just going to be an obnoxious ex-finance committee member,
Sure.
where it seemed like the burden fell upon, at the time, town meeting or town council to make that decision about bonding these long-term projects. And the CPA was such a small fragment of that, with such limited resources, that I couldn't understand where our role is in helping to make that decision. I know that's a very vague comment, but maybe you could just shed a little light on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think again, you'll get all different types of projects that are submitted to CPA, some small dollars, some large dollars. And if you want to be able to make, you know, some combination of all of them happen, in the past that has taken borrowing to make them happen. Um, Again, if you look at a lot of our big affordable housing projects that have done a lot of, a lot of good in the community, track and field, and some of the projects that we have coming up with the library and with Fort River. Again, without borrowing, those would have been very difficult for CPA to support, and I don't know if they would have got support anywhere else.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bob, thank you for being our resident philosopher on this. It's important that we understand the reasoning behind it. And I think one other thing I would add to Sean's response is that, this is a funding stream, right? And so can we be diverse in providing options for funding more things than we might otherwise be able to do? And I think I know Jason has a comment, so I'm really mindful of time because of the 16 projects we have to get to. And
I can finish quickly, Katie, if you want me to
no,
just
I
get
know,
to the
Sean,
end.
you've got your piece to share. And I think one of the things I just wanted to put a pin in, and I think I've said this in the past, I think another meeting in the future to pick up this idea of, what the CPA is comfortable in, what percentage of the overall dollars. I mean, now that we have more dollars, it's even a smaller percentage that is going to debt. It's currently about 18% of our total. I think it's actually less now. It's probably more like 16 or something like that. And it's going to stay that way if we don't add more debt for 5 years, and then it will drop to about 10% of our total. So it might be a good thing. I don't think now, but for the CPA to have a conversation, make sort of a decision of maybe a range. We're comfortable with the total amount of dollars available being spent towards debt in order to do larger projects and have more, sort of be able to fund more diverse things over time. So it looks like we've got a little debt modeling, but Jason, do you have a question that you want to jump out now?
Yeah, Katie, you mentioned, I think that ultimately the treasurer, they make the decisions. Sean, I guess you're involved as well. I would assume making the decision on how the debt's structured. However, in this instance, especially with like the slate roof and potentially even the library, right? We'll just call it $2.5 million in debt.
Right.
For bonding. And that takes away future dollars from CPA. If we think that the slate roof is going to be bonded for a period of 30 years, let's just say in theory,
yeah.
$30,000 payment each year. If it's only 10, it's $100,000 payment each year, right? So I think we need to have a little bit of an idea of what the potential method will be or how long that bond will go out so that we know how much it will affect future years. Because the difference, $70,000 is a good amount of money. I mean, there's a number of these projects that are like, less than 70,000 or pretty close to 70,000. So that's potentially the difference between one or two projects getting funded. So I think that's important for us to know when we're making these decisions.
Respond to that, Katie?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Jason, one thing that we'll do, you guys are going to do your deliberation, you're going to, evaluate the projects. Once we kind of hear that and get a sense for what direction the committee is heading in, we will bring you back some different options for what that would look like, and it'll include exactly what you're identifying, which is what could it look like, and we'll bring back some different scenarios for what it would look like. And that it's not to steer you in any one direction, but it's to say, you guys really like these 10 projects and you don't like these other ones. Here's how, a couple options for how it could be done. So you'll have a sense of that before you make your recommendation.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate that. And that was, kind of part of our deliberation process has been to get that support from the town after we've done our ranking tonight. So between, this meeting and next, getting that information is super helpful. And some ways, Jason, I think that some ways to do this is you can bond the whole project, you can use some of the current dollars so that the debt part is lower potentially. So, I think there's a lot of different ways to do this. And first starting with the merits of each project and seeing what we want to try to do and then figuring out a way to do it. Sean, do you have additional
I have two more
slides here?
things that'll be really quick,
All
and then we'll send
No.
this out to the committee and post it online. So this is just
Awesome.
our your current debt that is approved with what we've projected for next year. That's in the dark blue, and the light blue is the forecast of the surcharge revenue. So I didn't include state aid in here because the state aid number fluctuates up and down, and if you want to be really, sure about this when you approve debt that you have the funds to cover it, I think looking at the surcharge revenue alone is the safest way to go. So the lighter blue is the estimate of that revenue over time. So as Katie mentioned, it's flat for a little while and just drops off when some of those other projects get paid off in about 5 years. And then this is just to kind of help you see it in your mind. If for every $1 million of debt, additional debt you authorize, and this is just again looking at like a 10-year model, what it would do to this model. So the dark blue is still your current debt. The grayish color would be $1 million more than that. The yellow would be $2 million more, and the darker blue would be $3 million more. So just again, hypothetical. It's not tied to any one project, but just to help you visualize how that would eat into the funds that you have available in future years. And that's it.
That's really helpful, Sean. I appreciate you taking the time to put those
Very,
together
thank
and
you.
walk us through. I was just going to ask if there are a couple of other questions for Sean before we move on. Angus?
Mine's really brief. It's just I think you said this, but originally y'all had estimated that we had like 2.5 million to work with for this year. Has that estimate gone up, Sean?
Yeah, so that estimate's gone up to about 3.1. And the
Okay.
two biggest reasons why are we increased our estimates for the surcharge revenue, which helped. And the biggest reason why is the previous chart we gave you assumed all of the debt that the committee had recommended last year was ultimately appropriated, but a big chunk of it, about $400,000 of the debt that you thought was going to be appropriated, ultimately didn't because those projects weren't ready. So what that means is you would kind of set that money aside of the funds you had last year, and now it's back in your beginning balance.
Thank you.
Such good news. Thank you. We needed the extra dollars. Great. Jason?
Yeah, so Sean, could you just briefly it's a 3.5% surcharge on everybody's property tax bill, correct?
Yeah, so I can send you out like the specific calculation. And actually, I don't know, have you all received your assessor's newsletter?
No.
Get the assessor's
No.
newsletter?
No.
Well,
can hardly
hopefully
wait.
in the next week. And if you don't get it, let me know because we've got to talk to some vendors if you don't get it. But you should all be getting an assessor's newsletter, which actually gives the calculation to help you understand what the CPA surcharge is and how your property pays into it. But essentially, there's a certain amount of your property that's exempt. I think it's like 100,000 or so of the property, sort of the first 100,000 it's not applied to, and then it's a percentage above that. But I can send the specific calculation with an example out to the committee.
Yeah, so and then as far as other than that kind of yearly incremental increase in assessments, the only other way that this available funds is going to grow is if we have more properties more new properties that are are taxed.
Yeah,
So more houses. If
as
we
new
build
properties as new growth happens, so new growth is a very important concept for us on the town side because that increases our our overall tax levy, but that also increases who pays into CPA as well. So that can also result in increases to the amount of money the committee has.
Right. So if we build 1,000 new houses, there's a significant amount of money that will come into both the town and the CPA.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the state match too, Jason, does fluctuate, so that
Yeah.
could add or reduce. Yeah. Great questions. Thanks, everyone. Okay, thank you, Sean. So we have an hour, and so my proposal, I'll share with you sort of what we've been doing as a process in the CPA for the last few years, and it's I'll explain it and see if there are any questions or addendums to it. But the goal would be that tonight we get sort of a first and second step done in our deliberations. And the first step is to simply get a sense of how all of you feel about each of the proposals. And the idea is to do this straw poll ranking live, having it up on the screen, and we go through sort of a roll call process in which you just share your ranking 1 through 5 for each proposal. We're going to discuss each proposal eventually, but this is an opportunity to put a ranking up just so we can get a sense from this committee. Are we divergent on how we feel about the proposal, or are we aligned? Because that helps us prioritize where we're going to spend our time with conversation and deliberation. If we're highly aligned, we'll talk about those things and devote a certain amount of time. Where we're divergent, we're probably going to have to spend more time deliberating. So it's really just to get a sense of how we can prioritize for the start of the, each of the proposal discussions. So based on our past practice, it's like Leah will enter each of the rankings as we go through. I'll just call on each person kind of in an order. We'll go in the order that's there, and then we might go backwards in the order just so that sometimes you get swayed just by the way the group is ranking. So we want to mix things up a little bit. And if you're so compelled that you want to say, the reason I'm putting a 1 when all of you seem to be putting a 5 is in some one sentence, if you feel compelled to share that at this point, you're welcome to do that. But know that we're going to discuss each proposal, and you could have a chance to explain where you sit on that particular proposal and why you ranked it a certain way. And then if we can get through that, it takes a little time, but it's worth it. Then the second step is to kind of, as a committee, agree on, do we want to start with those we're divergent on, or do we want to start with those that we're aligned on, discuss those proposals? And the way it's sort of clunky, but usually in the midst of the discussion of a proposal, someone will say, well, and I think this should be bonded, or I think we should do, instead of funding it at the requested amount of 100, I really think because we have so many proposals, they could do it at 80. And somebody will put an sort of proposed number out there. And that's when the kind of numbers start taking shape. But that comes after we've decided on how we're going to start our conversations, our deliberations. And then we might be able to begin tonight, a few of them. I hope so, but the goal ultimately is to get through all of these proposal discussions and giving each one their due, and try to get input from the town as well, based on where we're sort of leaning. What are some priorities and some ways of funding things that we would like to fund? And then next week, if we're lucky, we might be able to get through and do some voting at the end of next week. But I'm a realist, and I think it could be, since we're at 7:06, that we might have to have a third meeting. I don't know. I don't want to do that, but let's see how we go. I'd like to have that conversation at the end of the meeting today to see where everybody stands on that and where we end up. Robin, you've been patient. Jump in.
I just wanted to do a little housekeeping because I am going to be recusing myself from discussion and voting around both the two projects that are the Jones Library project and the Civil War tablets project as they're related to the Jones Library, which is business still with MHC. So just so everybody knows, I won't be joining those discussions. I did not get a chance to re-forward, but I can represent representations from the Historical Commission for the other projects, and there is an email from Walker, our liaison, to Leah that I can share, which just talks about the recommendations for the two other projects. So that's one.
I think that's in the comments for the Jones
Okay.
Library too, if people want to refer to that. And the reason Robin's recusing is because she's an employee of
Of
the
MHC.
the MHC, yeah.
Yeah,
So just to be clear why that is, in any conflict, any appearance of a conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So in regard to that process I'm proposing, are there any questions on it? Any amendments to it? We're good. Folks have their rankings ready to go. I mean, it's almost as good as March Madness, putting my bracket together, but almost. It's almost. Okay. So Leah, I've lost you. There you are. Okay. We've got this magical straw poll that I'm not gonna be able to read, but that's okay as long as Leah can read it.
Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, just to orient folks, there's the proposals. I know this was sent out to you in preparation. It's who's applied, what aspect of CPA, community housing, historic preservation, open house recreation. And then we're going to have the straw poll ranking right there where you see next to just to the right of the yellow column. And then we'll be recording our votes at the very end in the next chunk there further to the right. So I think, Leah, is it, oops, don't go too, yeah, there you go. Would it be if we talk about proposal number 1, and then I just roll call the folks and you put the rankings in?
Sure. Unless yeah, either way. Unless one person wants to just do all of their rankings at once. It's up to you. Angus, this has a question.
Let's do it proposal by proposal. And if people, we don't need me to call on you. I don't think we need to go through that formality. So I think, can everyone see where you are? Jonas is first, then Jason, then Robin, like go that way. And just you tell your ranking for each proposal. Is that okay? Instead of me calling on you, I just think that takes more time.
Yeah.
Are people good with that? I heard Bob say yes.
Katie, can I ask a
Yes.
clarifying question?
Of course, Angus, yes.
So were we only giving a rating of 1 to 5
Yeah.
for 5 projects? Like, was the point to give a high rating, like 1? Sorry, were we supposed to rate every single project on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest? It's not
Yes.
a ranking of our top priority is 5, our lowest priority is
You got
1.
it. It's
Okay.
right. It's not a ranking of the projects against each other or in order or something like that. It's really a 1 being, I don't want to fund this at all. There's
Thanks.
no good. Yeah. And 5 is like, I really, really would like to fund this. And 4 could be, I really want to, I think it's really, to me, it's kind of very definitive 1 and 5, and the 3s and 4s are, somewhat positive with some reservation. Okay. Oh, Mark, you have a question. Mark, you're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, let's see. I wonder, can we use the chat? We don't have a chat.
Hmm.
Oh, I think you're unmuted, Mark. No,
Nope.
we can't hear you.
I can't see my full screen with my.
There isn't a. Oh, yes. No. Mark?
Okay, is that better?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. We heard you for a second. You were there.
It's like a cliffhanger on the edge of our
Maybe
seats.
it's the same suggestion it was about maybe turning off the video. We would get a better audio
Oh, yeah.
stream.
You could turn your video off, Mark, and then maybe we can hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Apparently, I have to buy a better computer. I'm just going to abstain from all the votes. I just want to tell you ahead of time because I don't know enough information. So rather than me getting in the way, just put me as a 0 for now, and I'll catch up as we go along.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Mark. And Leah, we'll just leave it blank.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So if everybody can see where you are in the order, we'll start with ranking the Amity Street redevelopment project, a request of $450,000. And we'll start with Jonas.
That is a 5 for me.
Jason?
5 for me.
4.
5.
5.
2.
2 for me.
5. So the next project, proposal number 2 is the Amherst Municipal Housing Trust request for 575. I'm like really squinting, Leah, so correct me if I don't get this
Sorry.
one. 575. That's okay. And we'll start with Jonas and go down that way.
4.
3.
4.
4.
4.
4.
4.
4. So the next project is the history of the Mill River. This is the recreation request for signs.
4. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yes, go for it, Jonas.
It's 4.
3.
3.
3.
1.
3.
3.
3. So the next,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, I can't thank you enough for, I'm moving my head back and forth, so I'm between two screens, so I apologize.
Well, you're the
This-
last person to respond, so I can look ahead. So it
Yeah,
only
no,
makes sense that I'm ready and you're.
This is the Mill River, right? The
Right.
completion of the history. Yeah.
So 4.
3.
3.
4.
2.
3.
4.
4. Next, the all-wheel skate park.
5.
5.
4.
3.
1.
2.
4.
5. And the slate roof.
1.
1.
4.
4.
2.
3.
5.
3. Next is the restoration and preservation of the Jones Library.
2.
This is, yeah,
Okay.
this is, sorry, no, I just want to, I'm squinting again. This is not the Civil War tablets. Yes, this is the, from the Jones Library Inc. proposal for 1.2 million. Okay, go ahead, Jonas.
2.
1.
Abstain.
4.
1.
4.
2.
4. Now the part-time planning and housing coordinator.
5.
3.
4.
4.
3.
5.
5.
4. And just like many of you, I'm sure some of these ratings will be able to share sort of that it's proposal related to merits and or to the amounts or, you know, the limitations. So I understand that we'll have more detail coming. All right. War Memorial Bathhouse.
5.
3.
4.
5.
5.
5.
4.
5. Next is recreation and conservation area signs.
4.
1.
3.
4.
2.
5.
5.
4. Civil War tablets.
5.
5.
Recused.
5.
4.
5.
5.
5. Looks like some alignment. Okay. Restoration at the north and south cemeteries.
3.
2.
4.
3.
2.
3.
4.
4. And the restoration of the Simeon Strong House.
4.
5.
5.
5.
4.
5.
1.
4. Goodwin Church restoration.
1.
2.
4.
I want it to be 5, but I'm giving it a 3.
1.
3.
4.
4. Open space improvements, application by the town of Amherst.
4.
4.
3.
4.
3.
4. 4.
5. Sorry.
Bob, you're 5. Okay, I'm 4 on that. And are we at the last one, pickleball? Am I right?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
5.
1.
4.
4.
1.
2.
1.
And I have a 4. Okay. Well, as you can see, in real time, we can look at the, sort of where we are in terms of the average and sort of the outliers you can see with the yellow, the yellow and the light green. Oh, did I hear somebody question? Okay. So I would say we have alignment in only a few of these. I wondered if, in the midst of all this rankings, if we were being swayed by the limited dollars, or if it was all, your ranking was really merit-based, or were you swayed and making sort of, it was a lower ranking, because you felt like, gee, it's too much money, or we won't be able to afford it, or we can't say yes to everyone. Jason.
My answer is both. Both the merit and the amount of money.
That's what your ranking entails.
Merit and the amount of money and the
Yeah.
long-term, good to the community that I think it'll bring.
Right. Yeah. So that in the merit. Yeah, that's the merit. And okay, that's Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like I would, if I were looking at something as a 5, but felt like maybe the number was adjustable, I'd give it a 4 or 3 if I felt like it could be moved to next year, I think.
Okay. Well, Jason, 1 second. Or go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, I just wanted to add also Robin made a good point too. It's like the urgency of the project also, and like the time, like, does this all have to happen right now? Is this something that's absolutely needed right now, or can it potentially wait?
Yes. So, for example, the slate roof might be a really amazing project and much needed. Maybe it's 20 years too late and it's got to get done versus, wait a minute, 1 more year in terms of urgency, and sort of understanding that might be helpful. Just as an example of urgency. Okay, so if we look at this list, does anyone have a recommendation? We have a lot where there's, we could start with the, anything that's under a 3 and talk about that because that's really a divergent, or we could start with things that are above 3 and just help prioritize our time. It's 7:26. We can definitely get started on talking about a few of these projects. So does anyone have a particular proposal they'd like to offer? Jason?
I just suggest we start with discussing the ones that are below 3. Because that is seems to be the ones that have the most divergence. And I'll start with what I think is probably
let's look at if you
want.
don't mind. Sorry, Jason, if you don't mind, I want to just see, is it possible, Leah, for us to see which ones, like maybe, I don't think, can you sort a block or? I mean, I see a number of them.
Did you want just the ones under 3?
Yeah. I mean, we could just name them, I guess. One is the
Just sort the U column, couldn't you?
Yeah.
If you have the formula, someone's pretty good at Excel here.
Not me.
No. Okay.
It's Sean.
You can also just highlight on the left.
That's what I was going to highlight.
That's an easy thing to do. Yes. Thank you. I do it for you.
A really nerdy comment. Leah, if you can change the scale from green to yellow to green to red, that'll give us, I mean, if you know how to do conditional formatting.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, this is great. Just highlight the one, just so I can sort of get them, and then we could talk in this order. And I just want to reserve time. Maybe we get through 2 proposals and then reserve time to talk about, what we might ask the town to, if we had any questions for them, if in terms of asking them to prioritize some things for us and give us some options before next week, and then think about whether or not we need to put a third 2026 meeting on the calendar as a hold in case we need it. Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you, Leah. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are considered, I would say, super divergent. I mean, maybe there's a 3.1 in there for the cemeteries. Is that right? Why don't you highlight the cemeteries too, and then we'll consider those sort of as our first grouping. Is that good for folks? Oh, I see hands. Robin.
I was going to offer to jump in with the Goodwin Church just because I had something specific to recommend. I think the urgency there is really high, which is why I gave it a higher ranking, but obviously there were some issues with the application. And I did communicate a little bit with Walker Powell, our liaison at the Historical Commission meeting, because like the Stronghouse, I think this particular property might benefit from being able to connect with some state funds. And if I'm remembering correctly, Katie, I think when we were dealing with the North Church, we delayed discussion about the church to a later point when we could gather more information. So that would be my suggestion here. I think it's something from the Historical Commission perspective, historic preservation. It's such an important property, and I don't want to let it fall by the wayside because of issues with the application and communication. But if there's a possibility that we could set funds aside, and I'm going to be trying to connect and get information to them about connecting with the state on either emergency funds that are available there or the Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund, which would require a match. So I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, Robin, just to better understand that, I don't want to necessarily start with Goodwin Church, but what you're saying is that you'd like to propose waiting for that discussion until maybe next week so you could have further information, because the emergency funding at the state level would be more appropriate than our funding at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have some sort of memory of a year where we were dealing with a project where we set aside of funds. We said we can't fund this proposal as it stands, but we want to hold the funds in case we can come up with we can get the pieces together to come up with money. And that's something I'd like us to consider for this particular project.
I see. Okay, so when we discuss it, that will be a proposal. Just for folks who are new, that is another option. We can reserve funding as long as folks are given the time frame and it's completed and given to the town council to approve before the end of the fiscal year. Like this, that can happen in sort of an out of cycle option. So
will there be a presentation to us though? I mean, the invitation was out there for them to present to us.
That's right.
Presented. So I'm just wondering why we have all these other proposals that have kind of taken up our mind space to be creating like a special dispensation for.
Well, that's a great question, Jonah. That's a good question.
It kind of shows the urgency and the importance of the project by how it gets presented and the thought that goes into the presentation. And 16 other presentations have put a lot of thought into the presentation. So I'm just wondering.
I think that's a great question. I don't feel like we've started deliberations on each proposal yet. So I think bring that up when we get to that. So we can have a discussion on that. I think that's a worthwhile question to explore.
Sorry for jumping the gun, Katie.
No, I allowed you to move forward, but just I know, Tim, you have your hand raised. I'm going to get to you. This is my proposal that we start with those that are yellow highlighted. And based on, I think Jason made the recommendation to start with the ones were more divergent. We'll get as far as we can with a proposal or two tonight in terms of discussing each one. And then we could sort of get a sense at the end of this meeting, like, is this working? Do we need to set a time limit? How do we want to propose? Do we want to have another third meeting? Et cetera. Now, Tim, did you have a question or an amendment to that?
No, I mean, we can go through this any way we want. At some point, I think we have to talk about each and every project. And
absolutely.
I am just intrigued with there are some of these where there's a huge divergence.
Yeah.
A bunch of fives and a bunch of ones and twos. And I'm just saying, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great.
So we could talk about that at some other time, but go ahead. Do your way is fine.
No, I hope my way is what you're talking about, because my expectation is we talk about each one of these.
Right.
Some will take longer than others, but we don't want, one to take up an hour and a half if we can help it, right? And so we'll just have to work together on figuring out the best method. But if we start with the industrial history of the Mill River Passive Recreation Project, and whoever would like to speak to their particular rating, and that would be helpful. Maybe Angus could start with the 1 and then Jonas with the 4, but however we want to do it, you can, like Ellen's popped her hand up, just whoever would like to speak to why they voted in a certain way, and have a discussion about, okay, do we want to, and you're welcome to change your ranking as you hear other folks, reasons for ranking a certain way. That often happens. So you can just say, oh, okay, now I see, or I feel differently. I actually want to lower it, or I want to raise it. So we'll start with Mill River, and Ellen had her hand up first. Go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think for me, my thinking was there were 2 separate requests here, and I think that setting up the website and having the signs is wonderful, but I would rather put our money to completing the project first. And then I feel like that's more the priority at this point than the passive recreation. So I voted higher for the second one than this first one.
Great, thank you. Bob?
I would like to change my score based upon what Ellen just said. I think that's absolutely the way to go, is complete the project, then give them more money to continue on.
What would you like to change your ranking to, Bob?
I would a solid 4.
Wait, you were you were a 3 before.
I was a 3, now I'm up to a 4.
Oh,
No, I'm sorry, for the completion of the project, a 4, and I would like to drop my score for the the
History. Yeah.
yeah, the industrial history, I would drop that down to 2.
Leah, you got that. And then
2 and completion is a 4, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a very good argument, Ellen.
Thank you, Bob. Robin.
Yeah, I felt like this project could wait a year, basically.
Great. Thank you. Jonas.
Yeah, I can probably lower mine as well. 3 seems about right. And then I have a question. After this exercise, well, 2 questions. One of them is, are we anticipating that, we're starting with these proposals first. As we go down this list, I assume there's going to kind of cascade back up where,
yeah.
Okay, it's hard to think about them all in
I know
totality and yet individually. Okay, and
I
then
think it is clunky. Just so you, I mean, it'll start getting clearer because, even though we're saying, excuse me, we might be saying, oh, we're changing to, this is now going to be clearer that it's maybe less likely to be funded. As we start putting dollars in, somebody might make a proposal that says, you know what, I'm just making this up. Like, so you could go back to this particular project and say, actually, we have some money, so let's get it started.
Go back to the ice cream aisle.
It'll keep kind of going up and down. Yeah.
And then how are we? What's our deliverable to the town council? This 5, the 1 to 5 scale, and then they interpret.
No, we'll have a vote on an actual amount we're recommending.
Okay.
We might vote not to fund some of these proposals, but for those that we vote together to recommend funding for, we will send that recommendation with an amount for each of the proposals we're recommending.
So it'll either be a non-recommendation or a recommendation with a dollar amount.
Yeah, we will.
Recommendation to not, non-endorsement or an endorsement. Okay.
Yeah, we send a full report saying we voted not to fund these, and then we were voting to recommend these. Great. I actually want to change my vote, Leah, to a 2 because of that. I really love this project. I think it's amazing that these residents have, over many years have done some pretty remarkable work to get this rolling. And I do think funding the work to get the project over the finish line is a priority in a year in which we have limited funds. So, Jonas, your hand's still up, but I'm assuming you're good. Okay. Anyone else want to make a comment on that? Bob?
Just a very general comment. Part of the, mandate of community preservation funds is to keep the community preserved and updated. So some of these smaller projects, I see as a priority to get them done because they can get done.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that perspective. Okay. If we're ready to move on, and as Jonas asked, this isn't the end of that conversation, but it's we'll come back to it when we talk about funding dollars, and we'll come back and forth to these projects. But shall we move on to the slate roof? Great. Okay, anyone have explain your ranking or want to give for or against? Jason, start with you.
I ranked this as a 1 because I feel that it is a project that could have been done anytime in the last 20 years. And we do have, and it's asking for, now 30% of the available funds. But I do think that this project is, I think, like a poster child for bonding. It's a long term, it can be a much more long term, so it has far less of effect on future funding. It needs to get done. It was in terrible condition. The roof is horrible. I'm somewhat on the fence of whether it needs to be, frankly, to be honest, I did not even know the roof was red until this project came in front of us. I've never really looked at it that closely. It's like, could it be done in regular slate instead of the red slate? I understand the historic significance and the preservation of it. But overall, for those reasons, and specifically, mainly for the fact that I think it would be better to try to bond this project. That's just why I gave it a 1.
And Jason, just to clarify, we can bond it through CPA dollars, but I think what you're saying is for the town to separately bond and not use CPA.
No, I mean for CPA, I think this is an appropriate project to come in front of the CPA because it is preservation of a historic building. But CPA, if we bond it, I'm saying we should bond it. I think if we move forward with this project, from what I understand, it needs to be the full amount. We can't piecemeal this. It should just be the roof done all at once. And if this can be bonded for 30 years or even 20 years, that will be better because it will have less of an impact on future CPA dollars. But I don't think we can fund this project because it needs to be done. They essentially need the $1 million and it needs to be done at once. I don't think this year. I think we either have to bond it or we can't do it.
I see, but you're not against
budget.
You're saying, I'm still not totally clear, but you're saying you're giving it a 1. But
I'm giving it a 1 because I don't think we should spend $1 million out of the $3 million that we have available.
But if we wanted to bond it, it wouldn't be a 1 for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I recognize the need for it to be done, and I think it needs to be done.
Okay.
I don't want to spend $1 million of the $3 million that we have available on it.
And if we were able to bond 500 and use 500 of the current use dollars, would that be?
I would prefer to just bond the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jonas.
Yeah, so I've walked around the town since then, and like Angus, Jason, I was not aware of the roof, maybe subliminally, subconsciously, and I've noticed adjacent properties that have part slate, part shingle. My assumption there is that they faced the economic decision and decided to replace slate with shingle. I think it's a shame that we weren't presented that option, told what the costs were. I assume it's because the only way this, and I've learned the only way this gets presented to us is through the historic lens. I don't think it, again, if we had red shingles there, I don't think we would, in a year, other than people who were aware of it, and were brought to their attention, would notice the difference. So that's why I give it a 1.
Okay. Thank you. Ellen.
I respectfully disagree with that. I think the red tile shingles are absolutely integral to the building. This is a historic structure. It's our town hall. It's should be done the right way. And I'm not in favor of saving money for that purpose. I think there's, I know it's a lot of money, but I also feel that the town is going to almost put they're putting significant money toward this as well. So almost 800,000 or more. So it's not just CPA money that's going toward it. And I would have given it a 5. I think it's a very important project. I just don't think it has the urgency as some of the other projects. It's obviously been sustaining water damage for many years, and I hope that one more year won't matter. I don't think it's in imminent danger of collapsing. So that's why I gave it a 4, but I absolutely want to keep the historic integrity of the building.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Angus.
Yeah, I'll say briefly, I don't have a ton to add, apart from the town has proposed a lot of projects and a great deal of money. So part of a couple of things that I'm thinking about. One is trying to ensure that we're not only funding town projects, but actually funding projects from community members as well. So that's one thing that's going into my consideration in rating this pretty lowly. The other thing is I'm worried about the going the bonded option for a lot of projects. Not just because it constrains future CPA committees, but also because we're paying interest, which is tax money going to private moneylenders, which is fine. That's how our whole financial system is predicated on that. I study school finance, so I'm very aware that that's how the world works. However, I would rather not have our tax money go to that if we can avoid it. And so generally, I think we're going to have to do some bonding because there's just so many projects, and some of them are really important capital projects. But to me, this is one that could wait for next year, or that the town, frankly, could pay for itself if it wants to. It is not routine maintenance in that it's historic preservation, but the roof of the town hall, where town government is also a routine maintenance issue, at least to me, and is something that the town should be paying for through other sources. So I would actually lower mine to a 1 if that's okay, Leah. But it's a beautiful roof, and I do hope it gets preserved.
I like how your own comments convinced you to change your ranking. Thank you, Angus. Robin.
Okay, so I gave this a 4 only because, first of all, the Historical Commission does rank this as a high priority project from a historic perspective. I gave it a 4 only for wiggle room about whether the town, if we were pressed for funding, whether it could be pushed into another year or maybe half of it awarded. But as far as the project itself and its urgency, I mean, I would give this a 4.5 if I could. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that one of the reasons that historic preservation exists under CPA is for projects exactly like this, where you have, as Ellen said, the material of the roof is integral to the full design of the building. It's iconic. It's the center of our town. And CPA funding requires that historic preservation projects be aligned with the Secretary of the Interior standards. And we've talked about that a little bit, but one of the basic tenets there is that like material is replaced with like. So if you have a red slate roof, you replace it with a red slate roof. That's in alignment with the standards. There's some flexibility there for technical and economic feasibility, but that would be, as I think I mentioned before, something like a red slate, use the word fake,
vinyl or imitation, yeah.
Thank you. Imitation slate, which is coming into use, but I don't think that that's inappropriate at this juncture. So that's the reason why the town couldn't even come to us under CPA for a cheaper option. And there is that sense of the burden of having a building like this is that you do want to have historic sensitive repair projects, so that the historic integrity goes forward, and that creates an extra cost burden for the town. So I feel comfortable with the town coming to CPA for projects like that, or for portion, or we can talk about that, but that's basically why I ranked it like I did, and I hope that that's clarifying.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. It is just a time check. It's 7:52. We're getting lots of comments on this. I will happily extend us a little bit longer, but not too much. So Bob, you're up.
Water damage is one of my pet peeves. It only makes things more expensive over time. And we've got a situation where that's going to keep creating a larger bill for this. I'm not suggesting with my 5 that we fund this the full $1 million. I think I agree with Jason that it is a poster child for bonding. What level we fund it at, I think, is up for debate, but I think we should debate a smaller amount, at least demonstrate that as a CPA, we want to participate in preservation of the most important building in our town.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Jason, you have another comment to add?
I do. I just want to somewhat piggyback off of what Bob said and address what Ellen said. I'm sure this could probably wait another year, but this town seems to have a horrible, horrible track record of not repairing roofs, whether it be the middle school, the DPW, and then waiting until it's like, oh, now it's an emergency, and if we don't do it now, the whole thing's going to collapse, or there's mold in the building and people are getting sick. And having spent a little more time in town hall over the last year, there's tubes coming down, collecting water in trash cans. It's really not befitting of, I think, what we all would want, not just our town hall, but any building that people use in town. And that's why I think I think it should be bonded, and I think it should be bonded at the full amount, and the project should get done as quickly as possible. There's already been significant rot and water damage to not just the roof, but the underlying structure. And if some of those supports go, then this is a much, much more expensive project, and it's going to get more expensive every single year, barring some sort of miracle.
So Jason, are you saying you want to change your ranking?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm using my ranking. I'll put it at a 5, but I want to put it at a 5 with the caveat that I want to bond the whole thing.
Yes, we'll get to that. That's super. I think this gives the town a sense of where we are. And I too would like to change my ranking. I would love to give it a 4.5, but I'm going to give it a 5 because that's what it was on my ranking. And I too think it's really important to the town. It's a perfect CPA project. It's needed. I think it's urgent. It could maybe wait one more year, but I'd love to have the town weigh in on that, and would favor bonding as well. Tim, you're up.
Yes, I agree with everyone's comments about the necessities for this. I'm going to change my vote also to a 5. However, I'm also going to, when we get to the bonding or not, I'm going to propose we pay cash for that, not bond it.
All right.
And we can talk about why later, but just FYI.
You're welcome to give your reasoning now. That gives us a chance to think about it. And,
okay. Well, the reason is
it.
if you bond the other very expensive projects like the bathhouse and maybe the Jones Library, the math works to reach our targets by paying the $1 million right now and not having
Yeah. Okay. I was doing similar math acrobatics this weekend.
That's my reasoning. I am very concerned that we mortgage our future by bonding too many things.
Right.
I think this would be a good candidate for just paying for it right now, and that's my reasoning.
Tim, did you say 5?
So
I'm sorry?
Did you say change it to a 5?
Change it to a 5, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tim. And any other comments before we just regroup on, having done two of these, any other comments? Sorry, I don't want to, on slate roof. Changes to rankings,
I
anything?
think just it's being presented that it has to be a historic. And Robin, you read some of the legality of it, but I mean, there's no law compelling Amherst, no outside entity or agency or body that's compelling Amherst to do this, correct? In a historical preservation approach, meaning like for like. That's coming. I just want to make sure that's coming from us and our opinion of the importance of this roof as a small body, by the way, speaking for thousands of people in Amherst, that we're not using that as a guise to just make this be a fait accompli, that it's got to be historically preserved and it has to be like to like. I'm just wondering what the legal entity is that would
Yes.
tell us this has
Yep.
to be a slate roof.
That's a very good clarifying question. And Robin, looks like your hand is up. I'm happy to have you address that, or
I don't,
we could.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the things that would force the hand on that would be whether town hall has a preservation restriction. It might, because I think there was maybe there was masonry work done in the past with CPA funding. Once you do CPA funding, usually you have a preservation restriction, and the purpose of that is to maintain the historical integrity of the building. There are other things that trigger other aspects of things, but that's it's so it's a possibility that there might be something in the background there that would cause this to be a project regardless of where it was funded from, that it would still have to align with the secretary standards. I just don't know specifically.
If a building is on the, registry of historic, blah, 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 does that, I don't know
That's not National
legally
Register.
binding.
Yeah, National Register usually doesn't have that impact. There are other issues with whether it's state money or federal money, or they get much more complicated. But the most straightforward thing in the Jones Library, has a preservation restriction. And I'm sure there are other buildings in town that have preservation restrictions.
So that would
CPA funding that triggers that for, depending on the length of the restriction. So I just don't know about this particular building, but that is a possibility.
Well, that would be a great, Jonas, you brought up a good question. That's something that we can ask the town to get back to us on before we do any voting. Great. Tim.
Yes, sorry for one more comment I forgot. I rate many of these projects based on how many people in the town are benefited by the project. And the town hall is no question benefited by just about every citizen in the project, and it therefore I think should be rated very, very highly. And you'll notice in other projects, I think the number of people that are affected based on the CPA funding is far, far less, and I've rated things lower because of that. So I just raised that question so other people can think about that too.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tim. And one of the things I was going to say about this slate roof, just to add to my reasoning, is this roof is, over 100 years old already. And so that's a pretty good investment. Not many things we're investing in, have that kind of longevity. So that's another part of it too.
Sorry, can we clarify though, using town hall is not impinged if it's a shingle roof or a slate roof?
That's what we're going to ask.
And people will not, fewer people, it's not that fewer people will use the town hall, depending on what roof we put on the town hall. So it's use versus, I guess, appreciation. Maybe there's a distinction there. But we're also looking at down the list of like recreation that's, I think, more of a direct use. if we don't
Yeah,
fund that,
no,
it's not going to happen for those people versus I'm not going to stop going to town hall if we don't put a slate roof there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for adding that in, Jonas. And we'll get some detail on that. And please know, everyone, that, we may not come to a total agreement and consensus on these. We will be voting and there will be, a decision made. This is how it goes every year, that we won't all agree on, but the majority will rule in the vote. So, but we do need to get a little bit more information on the preservation restriction and what's legally binding. And if this entire committee were swayed to what you're saying, Jonas, the town would certainly have the ability to say, well, no, we want it to be red slate. We're going to bond it some other way and fund it some other way, just not through CPA dollars. But we might, maybe the majority says, no, this is what we want and we like it and we want to fund it. And, we don't all agree on that. So we'll see.
Yep.
Great to,
Why we're doing
this
it.
is, yeah, this is exactly the deliberations we want, the discussion. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ellen.
Yeah, I just personally think that we should only consider this project as proposed as the red slate.
Yeah.
roof.
Yeah.
They applied for it under historic preservation, but it
Yes.
wouldn't be historic if we replace that roof with asphalt shingles. I think it just needs to be considered as is and not, could we do it with contemporary asphalt? It's just, that's not even historic preservation. I mean, that would disqualify the project altogether, in my opinion.
Yes, and it's not in our purview to change the proposal. So you said it a little more eloquently, Ellen, thank you, than what I was saying, which is,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, that was better said. We do have to vote on the proposal. It's not in our purview to tell the town to, to do the roof differently in this particular committee. We simply say we vote for it or we don't vote for it. And that's it. Yeah, we don't get to change the proposal. Thank you. Okay, we're at 8:03. Who knew the slate roof was going to take us that amount of time? But how are folks feeling about, next week we have 2 hours together. We've gone through 2 of the 16. So some of these may not take as long. We could give ourselves time limits. We could say that in 120 minutes next week, we can get through, 10, and need another meeting to finish up and vote. What are any proposals from the committee? Bob, you may have a proposal or?
I have a proposal. I'm going to suggest that we schedule that third meeting. And I know it's painful, but this committee is the most active and intellectually engaged committee I've been involved with so far. And I think we're going to have lots of questions, and the process is going to be more deliberative, especially with the 2-to-1 ratio of requests. So I would suggest that we end now, go to next week, see how far we get, and probably plan to do that third meeting. And I will volunteer to take minutes in that meeting.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have responses to that proposal, or Jonas, do you have a different proposal?
Oh, no, that's a great proposal. And I'm just wondering, will there be public comments also next week?
No, we're in deliberation, so we just keep going with that.
That'll help speed.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. We could do thumbs up. Well, maybe let's take down the straw poll so I could see you all, and we could do a thumbs up. Thank you. How are folks feeling about that proposal from Bob? Has come up with another date beyond next week, as painful as it might be. Okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up and acknowledgement that this is an unusual year with 16 and the amount of requests, the dollar requests. I would propose that we try to, I'm away the January 29th, so Jason could run that show as vice chair. It wouldn't have me in the, ability to vote, so I don't love that idea, but could we come up with we're on for next week, the 22nd. With the 5th of February. And I'm also looking to Leah if that's okay. Yeah.
Fine with me. I'm not sure who
You okay. You're
decide that.
available. No, are you available?
I'm available, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, so you're suggesting skipping the 29th and moving it to the 5th?
I mean, I'm not going to be available. I'll be
okay
in an airplane. So
I think you should you should be able to vote.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Anyone not able to attend on the 5th?
Robin has her hand up. I don't know if she has.
Oh, sorry, Robin.
I mean, I hate to even say this, but I feel like we've gone longer in past years. Can we do a longer meeting since we have so much to discuss?
A longer meeting next week?
The two remaining meetings that we have, going past 8 is basically what I'm saying.
I think if we do the 22nd and the 5th, we'll have enough time, but maybe the 22nd, if people are prepared to go a little longer, we could extend.
Okay.
If that seems okay. Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to propose the same thing. I
Okay.
think if we're going to be around on the 22nd, let's stay for 3 hours rather than 2, and just maybe we can knock it all off. So who knows?
How do people feel about that?
I'm in agreement with that. Concom meetings go till 10 o'clock at night. So
do planning board meetings.
This is great.
I'm not a big fan, so that's what you can tell where my bias is. But yeah, I think that's if the majority of the group is willing, then I'm absolutely happy to do that. And I think, Tim, your idea is a good one, which is let's plan for 2.5 to 3 hours next week. And maybe it's a short meeting, the next one, or maybe we don't have to have it. Okay, I'm seeing head nodding. And Dave, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I know you're trying to end the meeting, Katie, but one question I think for staff that would be helpful is we're kind of at that point. Well, actually, we're not at that point where in previous years, for many years, the CPA has said to staff, and Sean alluded to it earlier in this meeting, okay, here's where we are in our ranking. Town staff, can you propose some alternatives as to how to fund how our rankings have turned out? So even tonight, your rankings have changed pretty dramatically from start to finish of this meeting, and we only got through a couple of proposals. So all I'm saying is I'm not exactly sure where that point is. I had envisioned having or thought you might say, let's have the next meeting. Yes, try to wrap up as many of those proposals or those rankings as possible and give staff some direction to come back to you to say, how can we fund this? I heard many voices tonight saying, okay, some of these larger projects, try to bond them, but you still have a lot to discuss here. So I'm just kind of putting the question out to you as chair to think about that. When is that point when staff can come in and say, okay, committee, we think we can get you to where you want your recommendations. Here's the proposal or two.
I think that's a great question, Dave. And my recommendation is that you don't have enough information yet. So I think waiting until, maybe I'll amend, Tim's, or add on to Tim's proposal, which is we go a little longer to get through all of our proposals next week. Gives the town a chance to come back to us, because it will be very clear, I think, at that point, even if we get through 90% or 99%, that We're going to need some help prioritizing because we just don't have enough money for them all. But we know which ones we are ranking highly. So that would be then helpful for us to come back and deliberate on the dollar amounts, the methodology, debt, not debt, on the February 5th meeting to vote on it.
Okay. The other last little point I'll
Yeah.
make is that in that period, I think that's a great idea. So we'll get a good sense after next week's meeting. We'll put pen to paper and look at some spreadsheets and some numbers. In previous years, the committee has also put out there to some applicants, can they do a project for less? Can they take less than they've asked for? So that's also that point next week where you might say, town staff, is there a way for any of these applicants to do a project for less? So I'll just put that out there. That's historically been part of our process.
Yeah, and we did ask that in most presentations. So I do know I have notes on a few of them. I have to go back and look of like what they said about can't go forward at all versus, well, we would just do less.
And that goes for town projects as well as non-town projects. So
so that would be, I'm sure we would want to know that. And at the end of next week's meeting, I think we will ask you that.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Dave. Ellen.
Yeah, that was my question. You keep mentioning town staff having a chance to respond, but we have to give all applicants a chance to respond, right? Not just town applicants.
In terms of responding to
coming back with if they can do it for less money or what? Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
So maybe that was directed toward me, Ellen. So part of the town role, every project that comes through CPAC works with a town staff member. So part of our role in the past has also been if the committee says, boy, could project X or project Y proceed with fewer dollars, we often have the liaison to that project in historic preservation or recreation or whatever it might be, reach out to that applicant and ask and have that discussion.
I see.
So I just offer that as part of that process between your next meeting and the February 5th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think if we have some of that information based on the presentations that we have good notes on, then we don't have to get this town staff to do that, but we might need a lot of it. Who knows? Thank you, Ellen, for asking that. Okay, well, it sounds like we are in agreement to proceed next week with a longer meeting, try to get through all of the rest of the proposals best we can, the majority of them, get some input from staff on prioritization and methodology of potential funding before the February 5th meeting, at which time we'll either finish discussion and or discuss dollar amounts and vote. Okay, great. Okay, so I think we've got our plan. I don't have any topics that I did not reasonably anticipate 48 hours before the meeting, so I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I am so grateful to all of you. Thank you for taking all the time to be prepared and to have such great questions and good discussion. And Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your intrepid and your joining us at this stage. So thank you very much. And see you all next week.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.